What's up YouTube? I'm Sketchy Brett, YouTube's sketchiest artist, and today I'm going to teach you how to simplify a scene. This is Minimalist Urban Sketching 101. So what I've done is I've selected a street scene that's got quite a lot going on, so we're going to take the minimalist sketching approach to simplify the scene and end up with a great artwork. Right, let's jump in. Right, so this scene looks really complicated, but if we break it down, it's nothing more than 3 squares next to each other. That is our basic image. Right, we've got 2 floors, so we're going to split them now, and we'll give this little whatever we call this on the side of the building. What would you call that, Jared?
I know the word.
Yeah, me too. And we'll do it again on the top while Jared thinks about architecture school. Okay, so we've already got the basic image. Now we can see we've got 2 windows, and the same is going to be. And you'll see how I've just dragged my pen across. This is part of the minimalist approach, is to just let your pen run. And don't worry that it's not exact. Don't worry that these lines drag through, because this is what helps the image really come alive later on, because we're going to leave so much out. So now we notice there's a lot of people. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select a couple of people that are interesting. So we've got this person walking, and then maybe these 2 that are standing on the side here next to each other. And that's all I'm going to put in. I don't want to put a 3rd set of people here. I don't want the repetition. We've got repetition in the buildings. It's good to have an offset in terms of your composition. So now we just have a look here, and we've got some pretty basic shop fronts, right? And you're going to have to use your imagination a little bit, because there's people in front of some of them. So we make up the rest for ourselves. And on this side, we've got this cool doorway. Take that down a little bit lower. And then a shop front. And again, I'm dragging my pen through all of this. So Jared thinks it's a cornice, and I think he's right, but then I'm also thinking the cornice is the thing that's on the inside of your ceiling. So if anybody knows what that thing is, put it in the comments below. Teach us something. You can also see the windows are very complicated, but I'm going to simplify them right down, because I don't want all that detail in them. Now, we've got these cool t-shirts that are hanging on the side of all of them, and I don't want to lose that completely, because it's quite a nice part of this image. So I'm just going to string it across, and instead of making t-shirts, I'm just making them almost like flags, because that's all I need. This is already quite complicated because we've got the people, so I'm leaving all of that out. I'm not putting anything inside of the windows. I'm going to put a little sign up here. And that is where I'm going to leave it. So we've got a very simple sketch, but this really comes alive with some very, very basic, very minimalist use of paint and color. So we're going to do that now. So in terms of colors, I've got a yellow, which is nice and warm. I've got one of my favorites, Titan Buff. that I'm using instead of white so that I can lighten some of these colors. We've got alizarin crimson hue, which is quite possibly pronounced way different, but hey, it's not a spelling bee. And then I've got a turquoise. So I'm just going to use those colors, nothing more, and a bit of water with an old rubbish round brush. This is the same rubbish round brush you see in almost all my YouTube videos. People spend way too much money buying materials. Part of this minimalist approach, it's one brush, it can be a rubbish brush. I would suggest using a round brush because I can get a nice fine point, or I can flatten the brush out using pressure and I can get nice thick strokes. So I'm going to take a little bit of this turquoise, I'm going to add Titan Buff to it and quite a lot of water, and I'm just going to go across this whole middle building, and I'm going to leave some parts out. I want this white to be here, and now this building is all brown. I don't really love the idea of that. I want to make it more purple, so I've added a little bit of the crimson to the mix that we had on the side here, or in the middle here, and I'm doing that. I can pull some away if I want, then remembering to use the bottom as well. And then I like to, as it dries off, just add a few dots and lines. It will help with texture. Right, and here where it's bleeding through, that's what I want to see. I want these buildings to kind of join together. Now we got this pink one on the side, so we're going to use our crimson. We're going to water it down. And you can see I'm very loose with the brushwork. I'm not trying to paint in the lines. In fact, I'll also do things like this, where I'm deliberately getting dabs of color outside that really helps this whole thing come alive. So these white parts is what's really so important in the minimalist approach. So now, windows. And this is kind of just a mix of everything, but this last one needs to be more blue because otherwise it's just going to fade in. And then the other one needs to be a little bit more purple so that you can see them. But you can see we've just used the same colors. Now I'm going to mix up purple, and that's just the crimson and the turquoise, because I want this to be pushed back, this doorway. Now, in some of these windows, why we didn't sketch anything in is because we can make illusions of people and things in these windows with a slightly darker color. So we haven't had to sketch anything in, it hasn't had to become busy, and all we do is make these sort of illusions inside of it. Switching to the Titan Buff with a dirty brush still, and we put in our t-shirts and then work it through the cornices, because that's going to lighten it up and show that they are sticking out and the sun is hitting them. Same for the sign. And then I will put just a tiny bit of paint over these people. We could stop here, but if we want to bring it alive a little bit more, we're going to take some of this mix of turquoise and Titan Buff, and we're going to put a lot of water in, and we're just going to do that. for the sky. We're not going to do too much on the sides. We want it just to kind of float off the top of this building. And the very last thing I want to do is take some of this yellow, because everything is very cool. We've got a very cool color palette here. But we had this striking yellow jacket here on this person. And immediately this person just pops out as our focus. And I'm going to add onto his head as well, just to balance it a bit, and sort of like a hoodie, you know. And now this image comes alive with this one little dot of color. So that's how you use the minimalist sketching technique to simplify a scene and end up with what I think is a really fun and charming image. And it really is something all of you should try. And if you still want to learn some more, this is a great video that's going to go into line work in a little bit more detail. But if you want to focus more on the color side, this is the video you need to watch next. And until next week, keep it sketchy.